Oh, yeah.
As he talks about what we heard from the president in the Oval Office yesterday, calling out specific oil majors for their profits. Listen.
They're making too much money based on a shortage. They're making too much money. I don't like it. Chevron, too much money. ExxonMobil, too much money. When you look at one company where they made 12 times what they made the year before, they're going to give some of that back to the public, and they better cut the retail price, the consumer price.
So to Jordan's point, it sounds like something we've heard from prior administrations as well.
Well, yeah, that's true. And it's kind of amazing since we hear so much about the president's relationship with the oil industry. Well, we may not be seeing a lot of additional drilling. It's kind of a vibes thing that there's just more positive energy in the energy space when it comes to this administration. But stopping down to call him out, what are we looking at for a gallon of gas today, Kaylee? $4 according to AAA and 8 cents nationally. And we wanted to talk this out with Mike Sommers. I'm guessing he was listening to this as well. Mike, of course, runs the American Petroleum Institute, where he's president and CEO, speaking for the industry. It's great to see you, Mike.
Great to be with you.
Welcome back to Bloomberg. Is this an argument within the family? How would you describe the relationship between this administration and your industry? And what's he looking for here?
Well, first of all, I give the president a lot of credit. His energy dominance agenda has really made the difference. We've opened up the Gulf of America again for production. We have more production on federal lands and, of course, in federal waters. Their regulatory agenda has been very positive for the American oil and gas industry. There's no question. This president has been focused on more production here in the United States. And that has provided a buffer during this time when the Strait of Hormuz has been effectively closed. So I give him a lot of credit for his energy dominance agenda. At the same time, we know that this industry is a price taker, not a price maker. And because the Strait of Hormuz has been shut down for basically 5 months, we're of course going to be dealing with higher prices at the pump.
So in other words, is higher profit not a choice? Or could they make a different choice?
Well, of course. This is an industry, as I said, we are price takers, not price makers. And as a consequence of the Strait of Hormuz, which has been 20 million barrels of oil a day, not making it through the Strait, you're going to have to deal with higher prices. I'll remind you, though, in 2020, I was actually in a meeting with the president in the cabinet room where this industry was actually dealing with low prices. In fact, negative $32 prices. And that was a time when this industry was making virtually zero earnings. So this is a commodity business. Prices go up, prices go down. We have to deal with the price swings. And on average, this industry actually makes fewer earnings than other large industries like tech, like finance. So this is an industry that we do have to deal with those highs and lows. And high prices now mean investments for future production. One example of that is during the 2008-2012 period, when we were dealing with significant earnings at that point too. That was allowed us to finance what eventually became the shale revolution, the fracking revolution, which allowed us today now produce about 14 million barrels of oil every single
Surely
day.
the president understands everything we're talking about here, right? I mean, he knows that there's a refining bottleneck in this country, that there's a disconnect. We talk about crack spreads between the price of crude and what we pay at the pump, that distilled products are their own story. Is he just sounding the populist alarm in an election season? I feel your pain.
Well, I do think that everyone is concerned about high prices at the pump for American consumers and high electricity prices.
Calling you guys out by name, though, ExxonMobil and Chevron.
Absolutely. But we understand that, we're in an election year and we're going to have to deal with that kind of incoming. But at the same time, American consumers have to understand that during this time of high earnings, this is the time when we invest for future production going forward.
Well, as Joe's talking about the political considerations here, that arguably is why we've seen the president float things like a gas tax holiday, for example. Do you fear that he could even go so far if we see prices permanently above $4 a gallon, for example, to suggest that maybe there should be export bans put in place in this country? What would that do?
Well, we would also be very concerned about any kind of an export ban. I will say that there are a lot of policies that they put in place that have provided some kind of a buffer. For example, the Jones Act waiver that they put into place. There are other things they could do. There are changes that they could make to the renewable fuels standard right now that are providing a higher price at the pump that we don't need to sustain right now, given the kind of challenges that we have. But we would be concerned about an export ban, primarily because there is is a mismatch between the kind of production that we have in the United States. This WTI that we produce here in the United States isn't necessarily refined here in the United States. So we import a lot of product from overseas, and then we export a lot of product from the United States to be refined elsewhere. That's actually to the benefit of American consumers, because we buy that lower quality crude from other countries like Canada and then sell it to American consumers at a discount. So any kind of an export ban, I think, would be a great concern to this industry.
We've talked about the refining bottlenecks in this country and the need to maintain these refineries. At some point, you need to take them down and fix the hardware in a country that hasn't built a refinery, I believe, since the 1970s. Is this the part that needs to be fixed?
Well, it's one of the reasons why we're so focused on getting legislative permitting reform done, because it is very hard to build anything in this country, particularly a new oil refinery. You're exactly right. We haven't built a refinery in this country since 1976. And if you think about the market that we were in 1976 compared to the one that we are in today, it's a completely different story. We were importing oil at that point. Now we're exporting oil. It doesn't make any sense. We should be building more refineries in this country, because that's the real bottleneck right now. Even when you're dealing with lower prices from a crude perspective, you don't have the refining capacity that you need to turn it into the products that we use on a daily basis, like gasoline and diesel.
What are you hearing about permitting reform on Capitol Hill right now? Or I guess maybe a better question is, are you hearing about it? Because we often don't.
This should be such a layup for the United States Congress right now. I believe it should be a political imperative for them. You see prices going up, particularly on the electricity side, because of more demand on the electrical grid, because of data centers and the advent of artificial intelligence. Unfortunately, lawmakers just aren't focused on it because we're in an election year. I think that this should have been the first thing on the agenda this Congress. Republicans and Democrats should be able to agree, because all sides benefit, whether it's alternative energies like wind and solar, or pipelines that would benefit oil and natural gas. But unfortunately, I think they're a little bit too focused on what's coming in November, and everybody wants to wait until they figure out who's going to win to decide who's going to benefit from permitting reform.
There's great hope in the markets today. We see crude oil in the 70s for the first time in some time is encouraging. How long would we need to stay at these levels or move lower to see a significant change in gas prices?
Here's the bottom line. Unfortunately, we're still not getting enough product through the Strait of Hormuz. Even at the highest ends, they're saying that we're getting only about 7 million barrels of oil through the Strait of Hormuz at this point. Because of new pipeline capacity, you only need to get that level up to about 11 million barrels a day through the Strait, because of a lot of that product now flowing through pipelines. That is a great news story for the Middle East. And I think over time, we need to continue to build that infrastructure so that we can avoid the Strait over time. But right now, we need to get that up to about 11 million barrels a day on a sustained basis if we're going to get back to where we need to be, back to where we were prior to this conflict beginning.
Well, so should this administration also tap the rest of the SPR drawdown that they said they would complete? I believe there's 39 million barrels left in that program.
So there are about 39 million barrels left in that program. We still have product in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That was something that they negotiated at the beginning of this. That expires at the end of August. They need to think about where they are and start considering whether they're going to do another release or another exchange, which is how this program is developed. I don't know the answer to that yet. I don't think we're going to know until we know the results of whether this potential deal in the Middle East comes through. We've seen this before, of course. I do think that has provided an important relief valve for American consumers, those targeted SPR releases, not just in the United States, but throughout the world. So there are a lot of these policies. Again, we're going to have to extend the Jones Act waivers as well. That has provided an important relief valve for American consumers.
All right. Mike Sommers, the CEO and president of the American Petroleum Institute, here with us in our Washington, D.C. studio.